everybody. We are live. You saw it on the screen. It says you're live. I trust it. I think it's good. This is myself, Mike Valentine. Mitch Middlebrook over there. He is Moneybags, and we got 3 gambling things for you today. So we're gonna jump into that real quick as well here. So before we get too far into this, let's go ahead and let's go with this walk-up music. We need like guitars or something that we can like air guitar this.
Yeah, so we got a ukulele around here.
There you go, somewhere. I'm sure we can figure out something. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the 643&Out guys proudly present to you the Sports Truth. I am Mike Valentine, the Fleet Geek. This is Mitch Moneybags Middlebrook, and we are ready and raring to go. Coming up on today's show, we're going to do the SEC. Is there a bias? We'll talk about it. How about a team that we haven't talked about at all yet? The Detroit Tigers. What is going on with them? You just wait till we get into this. I think Mitch will like that one. The biggest takeaway, our biggest takeaway, each one of us from the NFL. And here's a secret. Mitch knows mine because it was in the notes. I don't know what Mitch's is going to be. We're going to fly by the seat of our pants on that one. We're going to talk about Shedeur Sanders. Well, you will get me started, but don't do it yet. The Arizona Fall League we're going to look at. We're also going to look at the NFL overtime rules. That was a big play on Sunday night. Again, I'm thinking Mitch has got an opinion on this because his Detroit Lions were involved. We're going to do the gambling. We're going to look at our Twitter poll question. And, of course, as always, we're going to raise our hands to the sky, and we are going to go to church. So here we go. The episode today starts right now. Hey, Mitch, how you been, buddy?
I'm good, Mike. How about you?
Not bad, not bad. It's been, a little hectic, a little busy. Like for the 3rd week in a row, my work schedule has changed a little bit. So, we're moving stuff around and we're doing things we need to do. But hey, that's the way this place goes, right?
Yeah, got to keep rolling with the punches.
Right, buddy. No weddings this week?
Finished one this weekend, and it's my last of the season. So yeah, none coming up.
I'm writing that down real quick. Last wedding. Yeah. Okay. All right, buddy. Hey, I know you're a busy man. I can't fault you for that. All right. So I don't know if you saw the video or not. I was going to have something ready for us, but I was afraid that we'd get in a little bit of trouble for playing a video. I mean, it's bad enough I'm playing baseball in the background, right? So we don't own any of that stuff. So the last thing we need is for two people who make not much money to get fined a bunch of money. That's not what we need, right? So I don't know if you saw it or not, but Shedeur Sanders basically blamed his offensive line for the fact that he couldn't do anything against Nebraska on Saturday. So what kind of quarterback is he, and what kind of leader is he? And here's my question for you, going off of those two topics. Which one's more important to you, Mitch? As if you're an NFL evaluator, and we all know that Shedeur Sanders is going to get chosen in the draft, right? It kind of depends on where it's going to be. The season's young yet, right? But as you're looking at it, you're a talent evaluator. Tell me which one is more important to you, the talent or the leadership?
Well, I think it kind of goes hand in hand, and you can be as talented as ever, and more talented than anybody. But if you aren't a leader, especially at the quarterback position, in the NFL, you're not going to succeed. You need to be a leader as a quarterback in the National Football League, and if you aren't, teams are still going to take a chance on you no matter what, especially if you have that talent piece of it. But it's going to be a lot later and a lot lower of a draft pick than they would if you had even a little that they think they could rely on and kind of develop at that level. They don't need everybody to come in and be the biggest leader on the team right away as a rookie, week 1 of your first NFL season. But they need to know that they can develop you and make that leadership ability for the quarterback, the star of their football team. And so if they're not willing, or if you're not willing or capable to kind of take on that role, you're going to have a tough time in the NFL, and you're going to see your draft stock really, really fall quickly if you can't develop that piece.
All right, and I certainly agree with you. The leadership is very important. Now, of course, you don't have talent. It doesn't matter about the leadership as well, right? So you kind of got to have both. But I don't know. I guess I'm at that mindset now, and I'm the old guy here on the set, right? So talent's just not enough for me. You can have, again, you said it, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not a leader and if you blame everybody else, there are certain aspects of the game that you got to have that aren't on the field, right? There are certain intangibles that you have to have, especially in the NFL, that are not necessarily on the field. And that those things are very important. Before we get too far, at the bottom of the screen, of course, you can see our X account there for you. We do value your opinions. Of course, you can click on the. I'm not sure if I always say on this show that it's in the top right-hand corner, but I was watching Sons of Star podcast yesterday, and theirs is at the bottom of the screen. So I don't know. I've never watched ours live before because I'm always on this side of the screen when we do it live. I don't know where it is, but I'm telling you, somewhere close in this general vicinity here, you can click on the comment section and you can leave us a comment. We will certainly put those up on the screen, and we will make you feel as though you're a part of the show, because by golly, you are. You're giving us your opinion just like we're giving you our opinion. The second part of this whole Deion and Shedeur Sanders thing with the college football and the Colorado Buffaloes is this. I don't know if you read this. This blows my mind. All right? So Deion told the band not to play the fight song when Shedeur scores so that his rap song can play in the background. Tell me how ludicrous that is to you, or maybe you don't think it's ludicrous at all, Mitch. What do you think?
No, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, to take that away from college football is absurd. To think that, like we already know, Deion and Shedeur both think they're bigger than the game already. But this just proves it. I mean, to try to get a few more plays of some song that probably nobody's ever heard, and take that away from all the students of Boulder and Colorado and all the Buffaloes that are in attendance for that game, to take their fight song away so you can prop up your son's rap career. He's not a rapper. He's not an artist. He's a football player, and he needs to stick to football, not rapping. And, that's just absurd to me. It doesn't surprise me at all, because that's who the Sanders are. But yeah, I did see that this week, and honestly just kind of shook my head at it.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I was one of those band geeks, right? I don't know if you were or not, but I was. Stop smiling. I see you over there. I was one of those band geeks, right? I mean, that was, man, I wanted to go to those teams or those games. I wanted to get behind my team. And you're taking that away from those kids, right? A lot of those kids probably got, scholarship and all kinds of stuff to be there and to do that, to play those instruments. I mean, what's next? You're going to tell them that because, college football game day is there, they can't do the halftime show now because everybody's got to pay attention to college football game day? I mean, come on. Where does it stop, right? And that's kind of where I'm at with this whole thing. I'm almost ready to not even watch the Colorado Buffaloes anymore, to be quite honest with you. It's almost like a boycott for me. So now I'm going to ask you, and I know this isn't on the notes, and you may get, I don't know if you're going to know the answer to this or not. You can tell me you don't know the answer, I guess. That's cool. But so you said, so this rap song that they're talking about, this is actually Shedeur like singing a song or doing a rap song or something? Is that what it is?
Yeah, apparently it's the first I've ever heard of it, and I'm sure the first most people have ever heard of it. Unless you've been in attendance for one of these games, you probably heard like 10 seconds of it. The one or two times he he's done something good this season. But yeah, I had no clue.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was just wondering. So let's move on to our second question here. Enough about Colorado and the Buffaloes, the Sanders. It's not Colonel either. It's Dion and Shador. So the top 25, we'll look at risers and fallers in the college football top 25. All right. So this is the college football check down that we're doing right now. We debate and we discuss what happens. Look at me just read the stuff off the bottom of the screen. Between the hash marks and the heartland of this great country. I don't know who came up with that on that banner, but that was pretty good. So the top 25, right? Um, the the top 7 stay the same, which is Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and Oregon. Notre Dame fell from 7 to 19 after losing to Northern Illinois, who was unranked. And then Michigan falls from 9 to 17 after losing to Texas. So there is some other movement. We'll get to that here in a second. But do you agree with the rapid descent of Notre Dame and Michigan, or do you agree with only one and not the other? Where are you at on where they rank those two teams after losing this week?
No, honestly, I don't agree with either of them. But it's not because of how far they fell. Well, it is because of how far they fell, and they actually didn't fall far enough. Both of those teams, well, Michigan got its butt kicked on the scoreboard and on the field. Notre Dame got their butt kicked on the field and narrowly lost to NIU. Both of those teams got embarrassed this weekend, and honestly, both of them should have fallen outside of the top 25, in my opinion. Michigan, I mean, at least Texas is a notable football team and a good program. For Notre Dame to go out there and put up that stinker like they did was just embarrassing. And honestly, I think both of them should have fallen further than they did.
So I'm not sure if I agree with Michigan and how far they fell. Even though I'm a big Ohio State guy, I can't stand Michigan. I'd kick them to the curb in a minute. But like you said, they got beat by a really good Texas team, right? I know it was at home. It was in the big house and all that kind of thing. But making them fall all the way from 9 to 17, that's a big drop. I'm not sure if I agree with that. Now, Notre Dame losing to an unranked team at home, yeah, I get that one. In fact, I kind of agree with you. I was surprised they were still in the top 25. But I was figuring Michigan would go about 15-ish or so.
Well, they lost 31-12, and like you said, at home. And I get, yeah, Texas, great football team, number 2 in the country. But to get embarrassed like that at home, if Michigan plays another game like that, for sure they have to be out of the top 25, right?
I agree with that. Yes.
Okay. Then that's fair. We'll kind of see. We'll chalk it up to, well, Texas played really well instead of Michigan played really poorly. But that Michigan quarterback, I can't even think of his name. I'll probably never know it if he keeps playing like he did last week, because I don't think there was no signs of him being able to get it done last week.
Right. So Penn State climbs up to number 7, followed by Missouri, Tennessee, and Utah. That's the top 10. So 3 teams actually entered the top 25 this week. Iowa State at 23, Nebraska, after beating that crappy team we talked about in question 1, goes into number 24, and Memphis at 25. And the 3 teams that fell out of the top 25, Iowa, North Carolina State, and I probably wouldn't mention the other one, except somebody was telling me how fantastic that team was last week, and how the Big 12 was going to get this team into the playoffs and everything else. Kansas has fallen out of the top 25. Let me ask, I do want to do a follow-up on the Michigan thing. So Michigan lost a ton of players to the NFL. Do you give them any credit for that, or do you say, no, that was last year's team, I'm only looking at the ranking for this year?
Well, you can give them credit, but again, I mean, I don't think that should go into their ranking this year. Those guys, we're not ranking the programs themselves. If we were, number 1 the last 15 years would have been Alabama, and they never would have fallen off. But we're ranking the football team they are this year, and I mean, based on what I saw last weekend, Michigan is not going to be a team in the top 25 if they keep playing like this.
Okay, but we are kind of ranking them from year to year to year, right? I mean, pretty much every time the college football rankings come out, you've got Georgia, you got Ohio State, love them, but you got them in the top five almost every year. You got Alabama right up there. You got a lot of these perennial teams that I guess you really can't look at them from year to year to year in the beginning of the top 25. I've never liked that the top 25 comes out right away. I honestly think we should wait like 4 weeks in and then release the top 25. What do you think about something like that?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, week one, going into week one, you're ranking them based on kind of what they were last year. You got to take into consideration what they're losing, which, I mean, that they did with Michigan. They knew they were losing a lot, so they fell in the rankings. If not, they would have been number one still going into this season. But they weren't. You kind of take that into consideration. But I think after week one, I mean, you rank the teams based on how they played and maybe a tiny bit of what their roster is like. But I don't think we can take into past years and take that into account. I just don't think, that really has much to do or anything to do with the quality of football they're going to be putting on the field now.
Okay, I don't disagree with you. I just wanted to kind of point out a couple of those things and wonder where we are all at and the whole scheme of things, right? So let's look at question number 4 in our college football checkdown. We got 5 questions. We're going to do some fascinating facts at the bottom. Then we're actually going to do a gambling thing here at the end of this segment, and it has to do with the NFL based on one of those facts that we'll throw out there. I kind of like these fascinating fact things. I'm a fact guy. I know, Mitch, you are too. You're over there shaking your head, or that mustache is weighing you down. I don't know which one it is. I haven't figured it out yet. But let's look at this. The SEC has 6 of the top 7 teams in the top 25. The only one that's not an SEC team, of course, one Big Ten team, Ohio State. So is there an SEC bias in college football?
Yes, I think there is an SEC bias in college football, but I will say I actually don't think the rankings this year are a product of that bias. I think there definitely is a bias, and when it comes to the college football playoffs, we're going to see that bias. But I think the SEC has a lot of good football teams, and the SEC is known for their football programs, and not because it came out of nowhere and it was always just, oh, well, if they're in the SEC, we're going to rank them higher. The reason we rank the SEC higher is because they've proven that they can make good football teams, and they get a lot of recruits. They do a lot for their football teams to make sure they're good. So I actually think this year, especially those teams in that top 7, they deserve to be there. And a lot of them, almost all of them, are from the SEC. But I do think that there is a bias, but it's not leading to 6 of the 7 teams in the top 7 being from the SEC this time. But we've definitely seen it in the past where, come the end of the season, there's teams with 1 or 2, 3 losses even that are in the conversation for that college football playoffs, for some of the best bowl games, that they would not be in that conversation if they weren't in the SEC. So yes, I think there is, but this week particularly, I really don't think that we see the ranking the way we do because of the SEC bias.
So I misspoke because it is Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, and Oregon. Oregon is also Oregon is also a Big Ten team. And I don't think they should be there either. I don't think Oregon should be ranked that high. I watched that Boise State game. If you missed that Boise State game, you get a chance to watch it on a replay. That's a heck of a college football game right there. Peacock has really they got their bang for their buck last week. They now have the Big Ten contract, and I have Peacock because of my WWE stuff. So I like doing all that. So they really got a big bang for their buck this week. Those college football games in the Big Ten they had were fantastic. Now, the best game of college football this week might actually be on Friday. And you're like, Friday, really? Yeah, there's a game on Friday. We're in the double digits now with people jumping in with us, and we certainly appreciate that. The best game of the college football weekend is probably, in my opinion at least, going to be number 20 Arizona, and they are in number 14 Kansas State. So that should be a heck of a game. Two Big 12 powerhouses going at it. What do you think about that game, Mitch? And is that the best game of the weekend?
No, yeah, I think it definitely is. I think we were both really high on both these teams last week when we were talking about them, and they did not disappoint this Saturday. So it should be a really good matchup. I'm interested to see how close it gets, especially it being in Kansas. I think it's going to be a really good game, and hopefully, I think we're both hoping, at least on this podcast, that Arizona can pull it out there. But I'd like to see it be a good game, both of the teams, and hopefully the college football rankings next week show that even though it's a good game and somebody has to win, hopefully that'll take the loss against whoever the loser is, if it's a close game, too hard on them.
Right, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose, right? So, but yeah, I agree with you. I think that's going to be the best game of the weekend, and I'm really looking forward to that game. I am hoping Arizona can squeak it out. I need to throw ASU in there, man. ASU has impressed me the last 2 weeks as well in the Big 12, as well as a few other Big 12 teams. But Mitch and I are both from Arizona. We're both from here, so I watch those games particularly close. 3 fascinating facts. Here we go. 32-19. That was the ending score of Monday Night Football. And Mitch, I got a crazy fact for you. That is the first time ever in the NFL that a game has ended with the score being 32-19. Ever. I thought that was nuts. That's the first time it's ever happened. I got to give a shout out to my Reds here. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. We'll talk about the MLB and the National League and the playoff chase here in just a few moments. But I think it speaks to this, and I'll get your opinion on this too. I think there are certain teams that play up to the competition, and there are certain teams that play down to the competition, right? And I think this stat kind of proves it for the Cincinnati Reds. They have swept, not won the series. They have swept the season series with the Dodgers, the Astros, with their win last night, the Braves, and the Yankees this season. 4 of the top teams in baseball, Cincinnati Reds, I would almost like to say the lowly Cincinnati Reds, right, have swept all of those season series. So, Mitch, do you think teams play up to their competition and down to their competition?
I do. They into their. I think the way to prevent that is a good and a good motivator to make sure that your team isn't playing up or down to your competition. I think baseball actually is one of those where it's a little easier not to do, not to play down to your competition or up to your competition. But yeah, I definitely think they do in all sports, but maybe baseball a little less than the others.
All right, I would have to agree. So the last thing that we've got, Baker Mayfield. Baker frickin' Mayfield has the 3rd most touchdowns in the NFL since he became an NFL quarterback. Crazy. That means that he has more than Allen. He has more than Mahomes. He has more than Burrow. He has more than all of those guys. And the only 2 quarterbacks that have more touchdowns since Baker Mayfield became a quarterback in the NFL are Dak Prescott and Jordan Love. So let's incorporate this into a gambling thing here real quick, Mitch, because I know how much you love this gambling stuff, right? So Baker Mayfield is what percentage to win the MVP? And should people lay some money on this guy for a change? What do you think about both of them?
They might have to consider it. I'm not touching this, but yeah, Baker Mayfield is plus 8,000 to win the regular season MVP on the National Football League. So those are pretty good odds. Plus 8,000 To be honest, I thought it'd be a little higher. But still, if you're a Baker guy, and you like those odds, definitely look into that. I think, you know, I was really surprised hearing that stat. I think it has to be rushing touchdowns, right? I mean, there's no way.
From it. It just says third most touchdowns in the NFL. It was a tweet that I got. I can't remember where I got it from this afternoon. I was looking through stuff, and I'm sorry, I got a little distracted in the background. I see David Bell arguing with an umpire. I was waiting for him to get thrown out.
No, but I think it's got to be, because there's no way Jordan Love is in front of him and he's the only one just having a season under his belt. I think it's got to be rushing.
It could be. I don't know. I'll have to go back through and see if I can look up my stat again. So I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you know I make a mistake, why you got to point it out to everybody? Huh? Why?
I don't even know if it's a mistake, but it might not be. It might be. I know it can't be Jordan Love, so I think it's got to be rushing touchdowns.
I don't know. I think you just like pointing out how dumb I am. I mean, it's not that it's difficult or anything. But all right, buddy. We're going to go into MLB 4-pitch talk once again. You are listening to the Sports Truth right here, presented by the 643&Out guys. That is myself, the Cleat Geek, Mike Valentine, Mitch Moneybags, Middlebrook over there on that side. And we're going to slip on in to our 4-pitch talk. All right. Let's do it this way. Mitch, tell us where they can get you out on Twitter real quick, buddy.
Yeah, you can find me at MitchellBrook52 on Twitter.
MitchellBrook52. I know you engage with people because I talk to you all the time on Twitter. So, yeah, you're right there. You're ready to go. The Rangers are promoting Kumar Rocker to start Thursday night against the Mariners. Now, that start will be his 17th start since being drafted. Crazy all in itself. So let me give you a little bit about Rocker and the start that he's made, and then we'll talk about him for a little bit. Rocker made 6 starts at high A, but he suffered Tommy John surgery. Since returning, he's made 3 rookie league level starts. That is the lowest of the low. That's as low as you can go in baseball. So he made 3 starts there. He made 5 starts in Double A, and then he made 2 in Triple A. Now his numbers in Double A and Triple A are good. 29 2/3 innings, a .91, not a 9.01, a .91, so not even a full ERA. And his strikeout to walk ratio is 47-4. He struck out 44.3% of the batters that he faced and only walked 3.8%. We got to take some different things into consideration because it's the Rangers. And by the way, I got some breaking news for you as well. I was just looking at it on Twitter. The Rangers are actually going to activate Jacob deGrom for a start on Friday as well. So they're trying to knock the Mariners out. I think that's what they're trying to do more than anything else is stick it to the Seattle Mariners. But is this the right move for the Rangers to promote a guy like Kumar Rocker at the end of this season?
No, it's not at all. It's way too early for Kumar. It reeks of desperation from the Rangers, and I'm not even sure what they're desperate for. There's almost no way they make the postseason, and even if they do, they're going to sneak in and not do anything in the postseason. So I'm not really sure what they're doing. This is a young guy that they want to have in their organization and in their starting rotation for a long time. He's still only 24 years old. And to bring up a guy when he hasn't had much work at all, and as you said, sure, his numbers in Double and Triple A are good, but he's still building confidence. Like you said, it's going to be his 17th start in any level in professional baseball.
100%. Glad you said it that way. Maybe I didn't specify it big enough. It's any level. This is his 17th start professional.
Yeah, and to take a guy who's that inexperienced and bring him and put him against the best hitters in the world could really do a lot of harm to his confidence. And I think just looking at his college days, not even considering his professional career, which again, Double and Triple A, he's pitched really well when he's healthy, but has not been healthy, has had a lot of concerns. But just when he's out on the bump, he is a very good pitcher, and he has a great arm and a lot of great stuff. But to potentially kind of throw him in somewhere that he may not be ready for, when you really don't have anything to play for, if you're the Rangers, doesn't really make any sense to me at all. Keep doing what you're doing. Try to ride the season out. And I think he shouldn't be anywhere near Major League Baseball this year, but they're bringing him up, and honestly, I hope he does well and that he doesn't ruin his confidence like I think he could and potentially will. But yeah, it's a really head scratching move for me.
So if you're the Rangers, though, do you understand the thought process of, let's get him up at the end of the year, let's get him 4 or 5 starts in the major league, let's see what he can do?
I do. But I also think, what's the rush? What are they so worried about? Why can't they do that at the start of next season? Why can't they wait until spring training to get him ready? You know what? Why don't you wait and send him down to the Arizona Fall League next
I
month?
can't believe you just took my thunder.
And get him some work there against guys that he's gonna see in the majors in the next few years. It really doesn't make any sense to me. It kind of throws off his whole rhythm and what he's got going for him down in the minors right now. And if you want him to be there one day, which I think we all think he will be, what's the rush?
Well, I certainly agree. That was going to be my thing. I agree with the Arizona Fall League. 30 games at the end of the season, Arizona Fall League. And like you so graciously put it, those people that he's going to see down there are probably people he's going to see later on in Major League Baseball. Because we know that a very high percentage of the players that are in the Arizona Fall League make it to the big show. We'll talk about the Arizona Fall League more here in just a moment. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to cut this thing in half. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Arizona Fall League this week, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it next week, because I believe the week after that is when they're going to start announcing players and stuff like that. So now we do have 2. I teased it last week, and I never answered the question of who I said the 2 players were. Remind me. I'll make sure I do it this week. All right. So we'll get to the Arizona Fall League here in just a second. But I 100% agree with you, and I'm upset. I really am. Because I was collecting Kumar Rocker cards. I was going to go to the Arizona Fall League with my clipboard and my Sharpie and my Kumar Rocker card, and I was going to get his autograph some this season at the Arizona Fall League. I can't see him being in the Arizona Fall League if you bring him up to the big show. That's almost too much of a demotion.
Yep.
So I'm really bummed about that. But I agree with you. I don't think it's the right move either. I hope it doesn't ruin him. I hope it doesn't have any ill effects on him. But if I can say it this way, if I were the Rangers front office, I would do it. Number 2, let's look at the Detroit Tigers. All of a sudden, buddy, and they are killing the Colorado Rockies. Last I looked, it was 14-0, or no, it was 9-0 when I looked at it the last time. So if that holds out today, they'll be 74-71. I don't know what Minnesota has done. I tell you what, let's just take the day out of it. Let's look at it from yesterday's stats. The Detroit Tigers are currently 73-71, 3.5 games out of that final wild card spot. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They have won their last 2. They are plus 22 in run differential. If you know me very well, you listen to this podcast for a while, you know me, and run differential is very important. We'll talk about run differential more here in a few moments when we get into which of these National League teams are pretenders and which one of them are contenders, because I think that's a big stat for that group. And then they're tied with Seattle. They're only a half game up on Boston for that. I can't even say final wild card spot. There's the wild card spot, and then the Detroit Tigers are the next one in line. They're literally on the outside looking in. And then the Boston Red Sox are a half game behind them. And the Twins are going the opposite way, right? We start talking Major League Baseball, and these numbers just keep climbing, buddy. We have to do this a little more. So there are a bunch of people jumping in with us. We certainly appreciate you guys doing that. Once again, you can leave us comments. Please do so. Oh, wait. Here's this one. Wait a minute. You are paying people again, aren't you? You are paying people again.
My boy Ricky, he just knows. I mean, you got to respect it sometimes. I don't know what to say.
I don't know about respecting you or Ricky, but all right, whatever. So yeah, the Detroit Tigers are into it. They are on their way up here. Let me give you the color, not the Colorado Rockies because they're playing the Rockies. Well, give me a little bit of comment on the Detroit Tigers, and then I'll give you some more stats. I don't want to bore people to death with all these stats.
Yeah, so right now, I mean, the Tigers are charging. They were even better last week. They've kind of returned to normal, and um, kind of struggling at points, but still looking really solid, playing some really good baseball right now. It's kind of the Tigers' thing to just dig themselves a hole throughout May and June, and then try to get out of it later in the season. But they've been playing really good baseball. Right now, to make the postseason, they're sitting at plus 790. So still on the outside looking in, obviously, like you mentioned, still a lot of work to do and teams to jump over to make it into that postseason. But this is really fun for Detroit Tigers baseball and the fans of the Detroit Tigers. And still really good odds to jump in if you think the Tigers are going to keep up the hot streak that they've been on over the last 30 games and make it into the postseason at plus 790 to be only 3.5 games out of that final wild card spot and almost have plus 800 odds. That's a really good line that I think you can jump on and make some money. Because if that line gets down to 1.5, 2 games, it's going to be probably half that at plus 350 or 400. So if you think the Tigers are going to do it, you got to hop in now.
Okay. That's what we got you for, man, to let us know where we should spend our money or where we should at least put our money at, right? So I'm going through here and I'm doing some things on Twitter all at the same time. Let me give you some stats here on the Detroit Tigers and on the team that they're chasing immediately, which are the Minnesota Twins. Now, I don't think they can catch anybody else but the Twins, right? I don't think they're going to be that well off where they can do it. But catching the Twins is an option here. So let's go with that. They have 3 against the Rockies, do the Detroit Tigers. They have 3 against the Orioles, and they go 3 at the Royals, 3 more at the Orioles. They're home against Tampa Bay and home against the White Sox. So they got the Rockies and the White Sox in there, but they also have the Royals and the Orioles in there. Now, if you look at the Twins schedule, again, the team that they're right behind, they're in the wild card standings. The Twins have 3 currently against the Angels. They lost the first one of the 3 last night. They played 2 more. They have 3 against my Reds this weekend. The Reds will be in Minnesota this weekend. Then they have 4 at Cleveland, 3 at Boston, and then they're home for their final 6, which is 3 with Miami and 3 with the Orioles. Let's see. Reading, I got a Detroit Tiger thing right here in front of me on Twitter here from OptaStats. So I'm trying to read and talk at the same time, and it's not really working, Mitch. So tell me, let me ask you a question, then I'll go back and read the Twitter thing here real fast because I'm not a multitasker. My wife will tell you that. Will the Detroit Tigers earn the final wild card spot in the American League?
I think they will. They're trending upwards, and the Twins are trending downwards. After today, the Tigers are 6-4 in their last 10, which I know you love the last 10.
Yep.
And the Minnesota Twins are 3-7 in their last 10. The Twins are actually on a 4-game losing streak, while the Tigers after today are on a 3-game win streak. So today, as the standings are right now at this moment, they're 2.5 games back of the Minnesota Twins for that final wild card spot. Like you said, I don't think they're going to catch the Royals, who are 2.5 games above that final wild card spot right now. But I definitely think the Twins are catchable there for the Tigers. I think they will, and I think they will end up in the postseason, which is really exciting for the Tigers.
And they've got a young pitcher doing great things right now. I'll give you something else that's breaking here. The Detroit Tigers did win that game this afternoon against the Colorado Rockies. A young kid, I'm going to try not to butcher his first name, Keider, Keider. Last name is Montero. I can get that one. So he is the only MLB rookie to throw what they call a Maddox. And the Maddox is 9+ innings, a complete game shutout, and do it under 100 pitches. That rookie did that today, the Tigers, as they beat the Colorado Rockies. So yeah, they're trending in the right direction. Uh, I'm with you. I'm going to say yes to this too. Will the Detroit Tigers earn the final wild card spot in the American League? Yes. The Twins are going the wrong way. The Tigers are going the right way. I predicted that the Tigers would actually win this division, so I was a little bullish on them in the beginning. But if they can make the playoffs, that's a really good accomplishment, I think, for the Detroit Tigers. Tell me this, Mitch. You're a Tiger guy. So will you be happy if they are above 500 if they don't win the playoffs, or because of this surge right now, is it okay? They have to make the playoffs, or I'm going to be disappointed in their overall season?
No, I'm disappointed. I think the Tigers are a very young team, and this really helps you build off these for years to come. And honestly, even if they just end up missing the postseason, if they're above 500, I think that's a win for them. And especially with, the struggles that some of those young players have had this season, with Spencer Torkelson having to spend some time down in AAA to get his swing right, and Parker Meadows not playing a lot of games this season due to injury. The Tigers have had at times a rough go of it, and they're starting to figure things out. They're still a very young team. They have a young core that if they can build the confidence in that young core and start having winning seasons, that's going to do a lot for them and those young guys' confidence. So I think either way, this season's a win if they can stay above 500. And if they can make it into the postseason and maybe have a promising game or two there as well, that could really go a long way to help this team in years to come.
Absolutely. And we keep adding people. We certainly appreciate it. The numbers keep creeping up there. Thank you very much for jumping on board with us. If you're a Facebook person and you're thinking, hey, I want to be able to watch this on Facebook, but I can't figure out how to get there, just go to our Facebook account. It is The643&Out, guys. They're on Facebook, and you can see the replay. You can't see us live on Facebook yet, because Facebook's got some crazy stuff that they make you, some hoops that they make you jump through that, Mitch and I haven't gotten our dog training yet to be able to do that at a circus yet. So, but as soon as we do, we'll be live on Facebook. But right now, as soon as this is over and you want to catch like the beginning of it, if you missed some in the beginning, or you're jumping on to the beginning and you missed the end, you want to make sure you go to church with us, which will be towards the end of the segment today. Then make sure you do that on Facebook, and you can do that. You can watch the replay there. So we're going to look at pretenders and contenders. We're going to jump to the National League, and I'm going to kind of start from the bottom and work my way up here. And then we're also going to look at this, Mitch. I don't know if you want to get this ready, because I don't think I told you this at the beginning. We will look at the odds for some of these teams, and you can tell me which one of these National League teams you think you would go for here as far as betting on those particular teams. So I told you earlier that I'm a real big run prevention guy. Run differential guy, run differential, that's the difference between the runs that have been scored by the team and the runs given up by the team. Obviously, you need to score more runs than you give up in order for you to win some ball games. But we'll look at this here. So the Cincinnati Reds are the last team I'm going to look at, mainly because, I just can't give up on them quite yet. But their run differential is +18. They are still in the wild card hunt. Let me do a couple things here. I can't open up too many windows. I'm scared to, because then we start getting crazy stuff going on with the Wi-Fi and everything else. But, we are so darn good looking, and we take up a lot of bandwidth because of it. So let me get to the standings here.
Well, I think they're 9.5 games back in that final wild card spot. Do we want to consider that in the hunt?
No, okay, so say it to me again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you were
saying. No, you're good. They're 9.5 games back of that final wild card spot right now. They're 70 and 75. They are playing the Cardinals right now, so they can make up some ground at least on the Cardinals. But yeah, it's not looking great for their odds. I'll tell you that.
Okay, so they're 9.5 back of the final wild card spot, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
let's put a fork in them, buddy. They're done. You gonna put a fork in them too?
Yeah, I think we can safely say. And hey, I hope for your sake that we're both wrong, and they end up making us both eat our words. But yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that they're done for.
I don't think so. Ricky can comment if he's still listening to us as well. You can maybe put that mustache thing aside for a few minutes and comment on something that's real. Cincinnati Reds, I'm going to say they're done. The San Francisco Giants would be next. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the San Francisco Giants for me have been done for a while. I'm really surprised they're still in it. They are a negative 22 on their run differential, so they have given up 22 more runs than what they have scored. Yet they're still kind of in the playoff hunt. So since you've got it pulled up there, I assume you still have it pulled up. Tell me how many games. Okay, good. Tell me. I like the head shaking so that I can. Yes, that's good. So tell me how many games the Giants are back from that final wild card spot.
Yeah, the Giants are currently 8 games back of that final wild card spot. I think we can bust that fork out and put it back in them too. But like you said, I'm surprised they're still kind of hanging around too. I thought they would kind of falter and fall off. 2 games below 500 still, so not really hanging around, but kind of. But yeah, that run differential minus 22 is pretty alarming. Even more alarming is that next team we're going to talk about, the St. Louis Cardinals, who are 6.5 games back of that final wild card, only 1 game above 500, and their run differential is minus 63. So let's keep that fork out, I think, even though, it might not be the standings where they're only 6.5 games out and, they could potentially make a run. If the Cardinals are what they have been, they're not going to put a crazy run together and end up in the playoffs. So yeah, I think all 3 of those teams are kind of finished. It's just, can they be above 500? Can they be around 500 by the time the season ends? What looking like?
Right. Now, I will give the National League Central a little credit because the next team that's in line is also the Chicago Cubs. So the Cubs, the Cardinals, and the Reds are all right there. And then, of course, the Brewers are leading in that division. We haven't talked about them yet. We'll get to that. But that Central Division's got 4 of the 5 teams that are, we'll call them not mathematically eliminated yet. Yeah, right? So I don't know about contending or anything like that, but they're not mathematically eliminated yet. Now the Cubs are plus 53 in their run differential. So what do you think about the Cubs? Are we stabbing them with the fork too, sir? And how many games are they behind that third wild card?
Yeah, the Cubs are just hanging on. They're only 5 games back of that final wild card spot, but they do have the Braves right in front of them, and then the Mets in that final wild card spots. The Mets being 9-1 in their last 10. So I don't think we can say they're done yet, and I'm worried that if I say the Cubs are done, they're gonna make me eat my words. So I'm saying I don't know about the Cubs, but maybe a little more bragging for the NL Central. The Pirates aren't mathematically out of it either. They're 10.5 games back of that final wild card spot. So all of the teams in the NL Central are still hanging around, still somewhat in the conversation, or at least not out of the conversation just yet. So yeah, good for the NL Central. I mean, we kind of say it every year, and we said it before the season started. These teams in the NL Central just duke it out, and they beat up on each other, and they take turns just kind of like 2 heavyweights going back and forth and knocking each other down, but not out. And we've seen that throughout this season in the NL Central, as we usually do.
That's right. So yeah, I honestly I didn't realize that the Pirates were technically mathematically still in it. So yeah, that's the thing for that Central to hang their hat on there. And to be honest with you, when you get this, September 10th, right? When you get this far into the season, if your team is still hanging around, they're still playing meaningful games. Even though you kind of look at it and be like, okay, I don't really think we can win this division by far, and I'm not even sure if we can get into the wild card spot. At least we're playing meaningful games. That's better than being 25 games out and living in Colorado. So, All right. So now we're going to get kind of more into these contenders. So what about the Braves? Plus 63 in their run differential. They are currently on the outside looking in, as you have stated a few moments ago. So what do you think about the chances of the Braves sneaking in there and getting that final National League wild card spot?
I really like the Braves' chances. They're 79 and 66. They're only half a game out of that final wild card spot um, to the New York Mets. And honestly, I think the tough part here for the Braves is how well the Mets are playing. Like I just mentioned, they're 9-1 in their last 10. The Braves are only 5-5. So the Braves are playing 500 baseball right now throughout their last 10, and the Mets are killing it. So if the Mets don't cool down and let the Braves catch up a little bit, that half a game back is going to turn into a lot more. So I think their toughest thing right now, if you're the Braves, is you need the Mets to slow down and start losing some games, or otherwise there isn't going to be a spot for you to catch up to.
Yeah, there's only so many spots, right? So yeah, and that's what you have to do, right? You have to not only play good baseball, like some of these other teams that we're talking about. The reason why we really don't think they can get up there is because they're going to have to play excellent baseball. Like they're going to have to play like 800 balls, right, over these next 2.5 weeks of the season, and then the teams in front of them are all going to have to stink. And those two probabilities probably are not going to happen. So yeah, the Braves are there. The Mets would be next. They are the last wild card spot right at the moment, and they are at a plus 59 run differential. I really think it's between the Mets and the Braves to win this final spot. Who do you think is going to get that, the Mets or the Braves?
Yeah, it's tough. The Mets are playing really well, but honestly, I think this is a four-team conversation when we talk about the NL wild card, because the NL wild card spots are only decided from the first NL wildcard spot to the Braves, who are outside looking in right now. There's only 2 games between those guys. So the Padres are currently a game and a half up on the New York Mets, who are in the third wildcard spot, and the Diamondbacks are only a game above the Mets for that third wildcard spot. So this is a really, really tight race in the NL wildcard. Honestly, I think any 3 of these 4 teams could see themselves in the postseason, because 2 games, that's nothing. A game and a half separates the first and the third wild card spot. You have even a bad weekend. You have a bad matchup against somebody. You could see yourself outside looking in and hoping that, you get some help from other teams by the time the season's over.
Right. That's what we said about the Tigers. The Twins are going through a slide right at the moment. The Tigers are surging, so we kind of think that the Twins are going to continue to slide, and the Tigers are going to continue to surge and grab that spot there. We got to talk about the Diamondbacks and the Padres, and we also have to give some love, don't we, to the National League West as well. Just like we said, the Central, the West has, the Dodgers leading everything. You got the Padres and the Diamondbacks here as the first 2 wild card spots, and then you still got the Giants technically who aren't mathematically eliminated. You got to have one whipping boy, so the 4 Colorado Rockies are getting that title this year, but they've got 4 of the 5 teams in it. So Diamondbacks and Padres, what do you think? Who's going to get the first wild card spot, and who's going to get that second wild card spot between those 2 teams? Let me tell you that the Padres are plus 70, and the Diamondbacks are plus 86. I had to squint a little bit to see that. My writing was small. So Padres are plus 70, Diamondbacks are plus 86 as far as run difference goes. Tell me who gets number 1 wild card and who gets number 2 in your opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be really close. Half game separated between the 2 right now. I think it's going to come down to, just one game that if either of these teams can pull out a late inning comeback or a close game where they just shut somebody down and sneak away with it somehow, if they can, sweep a series, that maybe everyone's just hoping that they could win the series 2 out of 3. That's really what it's going to come down to for either of these teams. I'm hoping the Diamondbacks can do it. But either way, I wouldn't be surprised if either of these teams ends up in 1 or 2. But yeah, it's really close. Honestly, I'm just hoping that they're both in it at the end of the day, and one of them isn't outside looking in.
Right. Now, as we talked a few weeks ago, we had Shane Miller on. He was the Locked On Diamondback podcast guy. We had him on earlier, actually, I was going to say earlier in the month, but it was actually late last month when we had him on. And we talked about how big the schedule is for the Diamondbacks. But the Diamondbacks still have to play the Brewers. They still have to play the Padres. So their schedule itself is not easy. And I think, I said this before, I'll stick with it. I think if you play a harder schedule and you beat those better teams, you're going to be more and better equipped to get into the postseason once that all comes around. So we'll see how all that works out as well. And we'll see if my opinion is correct or it's garbage. I'm sure you're writing it down there to get me with it. So I think I do. I think the Diamondbacks will get that first wild card spot. I think the Padres will get the second one. But both those teams are pretty dangerous in the playoffs. I'll tell you what, I'll get to that. So the Brewers would be next. And man, I have got to give your Brewers credit. I know you've seen the notes that I put out to you. They have the highest run differential of any team in the National League. They have 134. They are plus 134 in the run differential department. So you can't tell me that the Brewers are not a team to be reckoned with. So I'm going to ask you this. Brewers at 134, Phillies at 118, Dodgers at 119. They're pretty much neck and neck. In my opinion, the Phillies and the Dodgers have had an up and down season, and the Brewers have had more of a consistent season. So of those three division winners, or that looks like they're going to be the three division winners right at the moment, which one would you least like based on the playoff scenario? The Dodgers, the Phillies, or the Brewers?
Well, I exactly like you said, it kind of makes them the least scary because the Brewers have been the most consistent of those three teams throughout the year. I really don't know if that makes me want to play them in the postseason or avoid them in the postseason.
Right.
If either of the Phillies or the Dodgers are hot, they're almost unbeatable. But if the Brewers can kind of stick around that consistency, and maybe you hope their offense doesn't show up like it can every other game. I think you want to play the Brewers because if the Phillies or the Dodgers are hot, there's almost no chance you're going to beat those teams. Then again, if they're cold, you can walk in there and see the series sweep from them. So it's really tough. It kind of goes both ways when you think about it. But I think, any of these teams, if they're hot, they're almost unbeatable that night. But I think it kind of goes in waves with the Phillies and the Dodgers, where if they're hot one night, they're most likely going to be hot the next night. And I don't think the Brewers have that much fear of, they had they put up 12 runs last night. Let's see if they can score 2 the next night.
Right.
And I think for the other two, it's like, oh God, are they going to put 12 on us again? So I think that's kind of honestly why I would choose the Brewers out of any of those division leaders.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not going to make us predict who we think is going to be playoff bound and who's going to win some of these matchups. I think we'll wait for the actual matchups to come out. But I will put it to you this way. I agree with you. I would pick the consistent team over the up and down team. And I don't trust LA right at the moment because of how many injuries they have. We'll talk about the Phillies here in just a second with a player from yesterday. Hopefully you got a chance to see the clip that I sent to you about Bryce Harper last night in that game. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. But if I'm going to go Phillies, Dodgers, or Brewers, and you're going to force me to pick a team that I don't want to play out of those three, I am going to pick the Brewers just simply because of the consistency and things they have had. You know what? Let's jump into the Bryce Harper thing. So last night, Bryce Harper hit an absolute bomb. The problem with the bomb that he hit is that it hit the top of the wall and bounced back into play. He didn't run. He thought he had it. He swung. He stands there. He stares at it, realizes this is not going to go out. Oh, crap. Throws the bat, runs to first base, only gets a single out of it. The clip that I sent you, you can see where his manager is not very happy with how that all turned out, and he shouldn't be. But I have two questions for you. So this happened in the ninth inning of a tie game last night, um, and they did end up winning the game when it was all said and done. So I don't want to say it didn't matter, but so I want to talk about facial expressions and things in the game. Are you allowed to show that you're mad at your players during a game? Is that okay? Is that frowned upon? What do you think about showing your emotion, not for yourself, because I think that's a totally different conversation. Can you show emotion for someone else on your team when they do something wrong? Or do you need to just internalize that and keep it to yourself while the camera's
Yeah, I think it's a really tough position to be in, and I think you have to be really aware that, like, hey, at any point I can be on TV, and whatever facial expression, whatever I'm feeling, may not be perceived very well by everyone else. And if I want to, especially as the manager of a team, if I want to show guys that I have confidence in them and I don't want to show them up, I think you have to be really careful and really conscious of your expressions and your anger, maybe frustration with your guys. Because I guarantee Bryce saw that clip and he saw how his manager looked at him and how he was feeling. And who knows if they had a conversation about it. But if I'm Bryce Harper, I'm taking note of that and saying like, oh, okay, I'm not going to go up to my manager and say, well, you can't be mad at me for doing that, because I'm sure Bryce knows he messed up. But I maybe have the conversation of, hey, let's keep this behind closed doors. If you want to be mad at me and you want to be upset and show your frustration, do that one-on-one, and we can have a conversation about it. It doesn't need to be in the public eye.
okay. So that leads me to my second point here, and that is, when do you have that conversation? Do you have it during the game, just down in the dugout a little bit? Do you wait till the game is over? Do you wait until the next day to have that conversation when you get back in the clubhouse and kind of sleep on it and think about it for a little bit? When do you have that conversation with your player?
Well, I think you have it sooner rather than later. And I really like the move of a manager pulling a guy into the clubhouse or like into the back hallway, going into the dugout. So it's not in the shot of any cameras. Nobody can get you, especially if you're really going to lay into the guy. If you're really going to give him a piece of your mind, you want to make sure it is behind closed doors. So I really like the move of, he comes off the field, you tell him to meet you in the hallway and you give him a piece of your mind. You tell him that that's unacceptable, and you make it very clear how you feel about that. I don't think that you should be doing it in the dugout where cameras can see and everybody can see, especially if you're going to get emotional and you're going to get heated. It's not good to do where fans and spectators can see that happen, unless it's really kind of an apparent thing, that maybe people need to see you get upset. Maybe the rest of your team needs to get fired up and see you hold this guy accountable. But I think you got to have the conversation sooner rather than later. I think if you go that night and bring that up the next day, at that point, your point isn't going to be heard. It's going to fall on deaf ears. So the sooner you can have that conversation, the better.
So I want two follow-ups here. I like what you said towards the end of that explanation, which is maybe your teammates need to see that. Maybe the fans need to see that, right? Maybe you need to give Bryce Harper space, right? And the second thing is, if you were Thompson, who's the Phillies manager, right? Would you have enough guts to put in a pinch runner for Bryce Harper in the ninth inning when he does something like that? What would that do?
Yeah, I think that's really tough. And honestly, it's tough to do because of the situation he puts you in. If they don't score and win that game, I mean, who knows how long this game goes on? You might need Bryce Harper to bat again. So taking him out for a pinch runner, the replacement guy that you throw in there is sitting on the bench for a reason. It's because he's not Bryce Harper. And Bryce Harper has the ability to walk that game off last night, and he was a foot away from doing it. So to take him out of the game and put him on your bench when you still need him to potentially win the game for you later in the game is really tough to do. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But I think, I wouldn't have blamed him if he did. I think you can even kind of disguise it as, well, we needed a fast runner out there because we lost a base because of it.
Yeah.
And I will say, I mean, Bryce Harper hit a rocket off that wall. And who knows if he would have been thrown out going into second. I mean, even if he was on his horse the whole time.
Right.
But it's still the optics and the look of it and watching and not running that out and at least putting yourself into position where you say, okay, no, I can get two here instead of just, well, there's no way.
And I have to say, I don't know how much of the clip you really looked at, how much you studied it. I was watching it live last night, and then I watched it again this afternoon on a replay. Well, I can't say I watched the whole game on a replay. I watched a condensed version of it on a replay. Brandon Lowe, who was out there in the outfield for Tampa Bay, played that ball perfect. He didn't try to fix it. He didn't try to jump up over the wall and bring it back. He was pretty sure that it was going to hit the wall from the get-go. So he played to carry him very well, and it was also his good play that kept Bryce Harper held to a single. And let's talk about the Arizona Fall League. I'm already getting excited. I'm starting to put some things together. And before I get too far, let me give you the two players that I know have already been selected for the Arizona Fall League. One's an Arizona Diamondback. That'll be Bryce. Let's lost his name. Jarvis. So he's an injured pitcher. He's going to come out. They're going to have him pitch in the Arizona Fall League. And then another injured player. This is a lot of what these teams do. Arroyo is going to go for the Cincinnati Reds. That was announced a few days ago as well. Edwin Arroyo for the Cincinnati Reds. Very high prospect. Busted his shoulder up, basically, and he's healing right now. He's actually here at the Arizona complex down in Goodyear. I honestly have got about 8 in his card. I got one of them signed last year, and I'm really close to going this afternoon if I didn't have some crazy podcast I had to prepare for. So, I'm going to make sure that I get some stuff from both of those guys. I've got some cards ready to go. The Arizona Fall League team schedule, there are 30 games in the regular season this year for the Arizona Fall League. And I say regular season because there's some other games that are going to take place in there, some specialty games. We'll talk about those next week. So I'm going to give you the 6 teams and the 5 teams that are on each one of those teams. And for you guys that are like, what? I don't understand what you're saying. So here's the way the Arizona Fall League works. So you have one team. One team is comprised of 5. Let me get up there a little bit. Hang on. There we go. It's all backwards. 5 major league clubs, right? And they each get to send 5 players. Hence, you get a 25-man roster. Now, there's some quirks to that, stuff like that. I won't get into all that, but that's basically how it works. So each team has 5 players from 5 teams. So the Arizona Fall League will consist of the Glendale Desert Dogs. They'll play in Glendale, Arizona, obviously. They'll have the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Reds, and the White Sox. The Mesa Solar Sox play out of Mesa where the Cubs play. They'll have the Angels, the Athletics, the Cubs, the Rays, and the Red Sox. The Peoria Javelinas, who I believe were last year's champions, Braves, Brewers, Mariners, Marlins, and Padres. Each one of these complexes always has a team that plays for them in spring training as well. Like this one, the Salt River Raptors. That's Salt River. You're going to have, of course, the Nationals and the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. We'll also have the Nationals, Twins, and Yankees on that particular team. Scottsdale, which is where the Giants play. So they'll have the Giants, the Blue Jays, the Mets, the Pirates, and those surging Tigers we were talking about earlier. The Surprise Complex has the Royals and the Rangers that play there. So both those teams will participate. And the other 3 teams that will be with them are the Astros, the Guardians, and the Orioles. So let me give you some ticket prices real quick, and then we're going to move on to NFL talk. The price is going to be as follows. Now, they've gone up some this year. Hopefully, that good guy over here on the other side of me has locked in his price against his. I don't know how that works exactly, but I don't know. Maybe you can talk about that in a second. The single pass is $155 for a regular person and $115 for a senior. The double pass, which is so So a single pass is one person, a double pass is two people. That's $185 this year and $155 for an old Clark. Single game tickets are $13 or $11 for the seniors, and children under 10 will get it free. Still a really good bargain if you look at it, right? Two people can get into 30 plus games in a season and only pay less than $200 for that. So that's less than $10 a game. Right? So that's simple math tells me, right? So that's still a really good bargain, even though the prices have increased a little bit from last year to this year. But hey, what prices haven't increased from last year to this year, right? Mitch, I'll give you a few moments while I get the next segment ready here in the NFL 4-down territory. Tell us about your experiences with the Arizona Fall League and how you're looking forward to it this year.
Yeah, I know we both feel the same. We both love the Arizona Fall League. It's a great time and it's a lot of fun. And it really kind of, as we've talked about before, that season pass isn't even just 30 games. Because if you really want to, you can make it to a game at noon and you can make it to a game at 6. So it's a really good deal. It's really fun to be out at the ballpark. The concessions can kind of vary between major league pricing and really cheap. So it's a really fun time. It's a good family environment. If you want to take your kids out to the ball game, you want to take your family out to a ball game and not play major league pricing, it's a really good time. Or even spring training pricing. It's not even comparable to the two. And you're still getting some really competitive and fun baseball. So I'm really excited to see. I'm excited to watch. I wish my Brewers weren't all the way out in Peoria, but no, I am really excited. I think it's going to be a really fun season for them.
I'm happy that my Reds are in Glendale. They're not too far from me. So I was actually kind of hoping that the Reds and the Brewers would have been on the same team. So both of us would have been happy if we'd have gone to those games. And I'm glad you pointed it out because I kind of forgot about it as we were prepping everything here. Yes, you can 100%. You can see a game at 12 in the afternoon, and then you can turn right back around and see one at either 6 or 6:30 that night. And your single pass or your double pass gets you into every game. So you can literally do 2 a day, right? You can see 2 games every day. A lot of Mitch and I do it a lot in spring training. We'll see an afternoon game and then we'll see a night game, but we have to pay separate ticket prices for all that. And in the Arizona Fall League, you don't have to do that. The other great thing about them and with your kids and everything else, right? These guys want to sign merchandise. They want to sign baseball. And these guys are great with your kids. Like guarantee you take a kid and a baseball, I guarantee you he'll get 5 autographs every game. These guys love to sign, and they're great with the kids. And then, you never know what kind of stuff you're going to get. And you can go through and go to eBay, which is what I'm going to do here in a little bit when I know when the rosters get announced. It's to see me. I'm going to show up with a bunch of cards and a bunch of markers, and we're going to go to town. So really good time. I know Mitch last year you got a couple of shirts and stuff like that. So they do giveaways and everything else. I mean, I don't want to beat the Arizona Fall League drum too much, but I also do. I really want to give you guys some props. If you're thinking about craft weather where you're at, across the country, and you're like, man, going to Arizona sounds nice. Come see us. Drop us the line. Tell us when you're coming, and we'll meet you at the ballpark. We'll all sit together, have a good time, and we'll either see how great the game is, or maybe we'll pick somebody different. Who knows? It'll be a great time. The Arizona Fall League is always a great time. We're going to go now into the NFL 4-down territory is what we're going to do now. So four different territories for the NFL. 4 different places to go to, and we're actually going to do that and a Twitter poll question and a recency bias here. We're going to get another one in as well. So let's jump into this pretty quick here. The NFL 4-down territory. Number 1, Mitch. NFL teams average just 174.7 net passing yards and 293 total yards per game on Sunday. This didn't count the Thursday, Friday game or the Monday night game. But both are the lowest in the regular season for the last 20 years. So let's talk about this for a minute. Is that really because of the insignificance of the preseason? When you think about the insignificance of the preseason, how it affected week 1.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, the guys that played on Sunday barely touched the field in the preseason. They're all rusty. They all haven't played together. And they all clearly went through and had to shake some cobwebs off. So I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, no doubt in my mind that contributed to the lack of offense we saw, and especially the passing offense that we saw this last Sunday. I was thinking it the whole time in every game that I watched. I saw, oh, well, they missed the ball by a foot there. They missed, he ran that route not the way he was supposed to, and that would have been a completion of 20, 30 yards. But instead, these guys aren't on the same page. They haven't played together. It's completely different from training camp and completely different from the practices they've been running. And I think it's very apparent. I think that's the number one reason that we saw this dip in offenses, especially passing offense this week.
So then does that mean that the team, the management, the players, does that mean that they're all okay with mediocrity over money, right? I mean, this is really annoying me because I agree. I'm not going to say I watched a lot of NFL. I watched more college football over the weekend than I did NFL. I'll admit to that all day long. I'm actually more of a college. I've said it on these airwaves more than once. I'm more of a college guy than I am an NFL guy because of a lot of these reasons we're talking about right now. I don't like the fact that they're doing this. Man, it annoys the snot out of me. I would really have been annoyed had I paid $150 for nice tickets at the Bengals Stadium at Fake Bore, and I went there and I'd have seen that. I mean, I'd have been, man, I may have burned my jersey right there in the stadium. I mean, that's nuts. So I don't think the fans are okay with mediocrity, but does that mean that the players and the ownership group and everybody else that has to do with the team, are they okay with it?
Well, yeah, it's everyone in agreement that, hey, you know what? We'll treat the first 2 weeks as the preseason. And if we win, we win. If we lose, we lose. And hopefully, they can not be as rusty as their opponent. But I think every team has agreed that, hey, we're not going to put our guys out there in the preseason. We'll figure it out along the way in the regular season. And they're fine with that, clearly.
Yeah, that's just nuts to me. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know why you would even think about allowing your team to be mediocre and taking the risk of starting the season 0-1. Especially when you don't have a great opponent. Like, I'm just going to bang on the Bengals for a minute. I'm going to, the Browns disappointed me as well. They looked awful. There were some teams that played on Sunday that looked they looked worse than a AAA team in baseball or even a AA team in baseball. I want to hit this one fact real quick because I want to think it's interesting. I want to give you this from our buddy Dan Clark, at Dan Clark Sports, a very good guy to follow on X. Regular season. These are these pitchers' numbers in the regular season in the Mexican League this year. 83.1 innings. He had a 2.48 ERA with 120 strikeouts in those 83 in the third inning, and a 1.04 whip, walks and hits per pitch. And in the postseason, the Mexican League is in their postseason right now. He so far has pitched 27 innings, has a 1.67 ERA, 32 Ks in those 27 innings. 0.85 whip. They just won the championship with this team, and you're going to ask me, who's that pitcher? And whose team is that? Trevor Bauer. So I wanted to throw that in there before we get too deep into our NFL conversation here. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't know why anybody would want to be in that mediocrity state. I don't know why they would risk it. It makes no sense to me, but it seems like some of these NFL teams are okay with it. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the NFL does about it, to see if they'll allow that to continue. Mitch, what was your biggest take? We put that question up here, right? Yeah, we will show that to everybody. Here is our next question on NFL 4-down territory. What was your biggest takeaway from week 1 in the NFL? You can't steal mine. You've already seen mine. Pick something else.
Yeah, I'll let you go first, and I won't steal your thunder on this one because I'm going to kind of piggyback off it.
Okay, that's fine. So mine would be all the penalties, right? Every game that I watch, there seemed to be flags all over the field. And I would say let the athletes play. And I wrote down this note too: the results on the field need to be decided by the players and not the refs. Now, something that I didn't put down here on this is that I don't like that when the referees get involved and they seem to decide games. Right now, don't get me wrong. The game on, I believe it was the Thursday night game. Yes, that Baltimore Ravens receiver's toe was on the line. I didn't like the call because I don't like the Chiefs. And I didn't want them. I didn't want Taylor's team to win. But I'm going to do that all year long. By the way. I didn't want Taylor's team to win, but it was the right call. There were some egregious things that happened in the NFL, and when that kind of stuff happens, I don't know how you feel about this, but just like I said, this wasn't in the show notes that we did for the show. It makes me think that somebody's in that referee's pocket, where it makes me think that the NFL is rigged when stuff like this happens. I saw it more than once on the NFL games that happened over the past weekend, and it just makes me shake my head, and it makes me wonder if I really trust this game. What do you think about all that?
No, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of things that made me shake my head this first weekend in the NFL. And honestly, I'm with you. I don't want to go there to see well, which team won the penalty battle and which team won the yardage and penalties. And I think it kind of goes back to exactly what you said. Let them play. And my biggest takeaway from week 1 is you got to let them play. You got to let the guys play on the field in week 1, and you got to make the guys play on the field throughout the preseason. Because what we saw this weekend was rust, was, just sloppy play. And honestly, it all comes down to the lack of reps that they had in real games and not practice, not training camp, lack of preseason. And then the refs are, trying to do everything they can. And they're seeing all these guys with lackluster play week 1. So they're throwing flags because they don't know this isn't the NFL that they are used to officiating. All these guys are just kind of going through the motions. So I think the biggest takeaway is exactly like you said, let them play, not only in week 1 and watch the flags, but also let them play in the preseason and shake those cobwebs off so that they're actually ready week 1.
I didn't think about that angle that you just brought up. That's not the NFL that the refs are used to calling, so maybe that made a difference. That's actually a really good point. But, I obviously that wasn't in the notes because I as I told everybody in the beginning of the show, I didn't know what you were going to say. I think I'm going to try to do this for a little, at least one part of one segment every week where I don't know what you're going to say, and it's going to make me think a little more. It's going to keep me on my toes a little bit more here. So I have this, right? So in baseball and in most sports now, the coaches get a challenge, right? So, whatever happens on the field happens. And then, there's a replay booth somewhere. There's somebody telling them, underneath, hey, you need to challenge that play, right? They've got little headsets and they make all the motions and everything else. So let me give this to you. I thought about this over the weekend as I was watching. And I'd be like, okay, I was a coach and I was able to challenge that play. Would I challenge that play right now? So should each coach get a challenge each half? And if the coach doesn't use the challenge in the first half, so that then roll over and you have that kind of mind game going on. Wow, I don't really want to challenge that one. I'm not sure if we can win that one. And we may have something really critical towards the end of the game. So I'm going to save that challenge. So if I don't use the challenge in the first half, it rolls over to the second half. Now I get 2 in quarters 3 and 4. Talk to me here a little bit. What do you think about that concept?
Yeah, I like that idea, actually. I think, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And I think the best example of it is the automatic strike zone in the minor leagues in baseball right now. It's got to be quick. We can't have, 5-10 minute reviews that are going back and forth, and it slows the game down. I think if you do something like that, you give teams challenges, which I think is a good idea. I think it's got to be quick, almost instantaneous. 2 minutes. If you can't if nothing's definitive after 2 minutes, then you know what? It's not definitive to change the call. It stands. And I think that's the way you got to do it. You can't let the game be bogged down by the challenges, but I do think it would be really beneficial if, it's a glaring, obvious call that's missed, to let them have a challenge and get that overturned. And especially if it can be quick, it's not going to change the game much. It's actually going to make it better and more fair for everyone.
Okay, I mean, I really do. I like this. I like this idea. I think it's something the NFL should, Paul, I never say Paul Tagliabue. My gosh, that guy has been commissioner of nothing for a long time. I think the NFL commissioner should be listening to the Sports Truth, SPORTZ, by the way, the Sports Truth, and he should be like, yeah, you know what, those two guys might be onto something, and then I think he should give us some kind of rule. I get money any way we can, man. I can't get drink sponsors. We can't get. We'll get some sponsors because now we're on YouTube, right, Mitch?
Yep. We're on YouTube. You can find us at The643&Out Pod on YouTube. You can go follow our account there. You'll see us live streaming there while the show is going, and then you'll see our live uploads there about 10 minutes after the show. So, yeah, feel free to find us on YouTube, and you can follow along there as well. Like and subscribe, and we appreciate all your support.
That's right, buddy. That is right. Okay, so we like that idea. Our Twitter poll question was: should the Packers go out and get somebody and replace Jordan Love? I honestly forgot to look this thing up real quick. We got a whole lot of stuff on our Twitter account right at the moment. I did that back on Sunday. Well, no, you know what? Hang on. I know where I can look this up. Yeah, it was interesting to see how many people participated. I can give you those numbers here in just a second. But what about you, Mitch? What do you think? If you were the Green Bay Packers, would you try to go out and find somebody? Would you just stick with what you got? What would you do? See, hang on, I got it right here now. Let me give you the three choices. They would be: would you sign Ryan Tannehill? Would you get an established backup? Or would you play with what you got? We had 530 some views on this poll question, so a lot of people chiming in on this. What would you do of those three? Sign Tannehill, get an established backup, or just play with what you got?
I think for right now, you got to play with what you got. You traded for Malik Willis, and you got to see what the guy can do. I think that's your best option right now. Ryan Tannehill, if you're going to sign him, he's going to be there in 2 weeks. Nobody else is looking to sign him right now. So if then you lose out on 2 weeks that you might have some games that are winnable in that time. But you got to give Malik Willis the chance to show that he can step up and run this team, at least until Jordan Love's back. But I think you got to play with what you got. I think it's too early to say, we're panicking. We got to go out and sign Ryan Tannehill. I think, you let the guys play and see what they can do. And if it's clear that Malik Willis isn't the guy and can't, keep you afloat until Jordan Love can make a healthy return, then you can start looking elsewhere. But for right now, I think you got to play with what you got.
Well, the Sports Truth masses agree with you, sir. So 50% of the people said play with what you got. 37.5% people said get an established backup. And it was way down at 12.5% for sign Ryan Tannehill. So I have a follow-up question here for you on this particular topic, which is this: so stick with what you got, stick with Malik Willis, but how long do you give Malik Willis before you start looking elsewhere? How many weeks? How many snaps? How do you look at it? How long do you give Willis?
Well, I think it really depends on what we see from Malik Willis. I think, if he's keeping you competitive and you're not getting blown out, your offense looks, decent. They're moving the ball. It's not always going to be great. Obviously, he's a young guy. He doesn't have much experience in the NFL. But I think it really comes down to what exactly we see. If it's clear he can't do it, you give him 2 weeks. If it's, you're hanging around these games and you're losing just barely by one score, I think you keep him in there. I think, if if he looks serviceable, I don't think there's anybody out there that's really going to be the difference maker for you. I think Ryan Tannehill in the regular season has shown that he can win games. But I also think that if Malik Willis is looking promising at points, you leave him in there, try to build some of that confidence, and hopefully some of those tight losses can turn to wins.
Okay. I'm with you, I guess. I don't know. I'm not a big Green Bay Packers fan. I don't really care what the Packers do, to be honest with you. And it kind of floats over to me into the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. I don't care about Aaron Rodgers. He's not a big guy on my radar. When I didn't watch the game last night because I refused to pay some of these crazy cable prices that you're going to have to pay right at the moment for some of these cable outlets that I won't mention by name or anything like that. So I don't have ESPN right at the moment. So I didn't get to watch that game, but I was kind of looking up online, looking on Twitter and stuff like that. And when I saw Aaron Rodgers' numbers, I was just kind of chuckling. But we do have a great article up on www.welikesports.com right at the moment. Let me go over to it and tell you exactly what it's called here. If I pull it up real fast. So we've got a thank you to Joey Votto on his birthday. Some sexy guy with no mustache that you're looking at right now wrote that when you go over and see that. The Jets grounded at San Francisco and lose to the 49ers. We got the NFL Week 1 review and what we learned. The Bengals embarrassed themselves and lose to the Patriots in a pathetic performance. The amazing Mets win Red Series to strengthen their playoff position, both the fantasy hockey and the prospects to watch. The Browns, we have the Browns view on the Dallas Cowboys and Browns game. We also have the Dallas view on that. We got Brawl, we got Cincinnati Red, SCW Pro Wrestling at the end of that, the College Football Week 2, what we learned from that. So we got a lot of different stuff over on the website, which is, again, www.welikesportspc.com. Now, I will tell you this as well. If you want something, if you want a trusted website, something that has been out there for a while, it's been producing a lot of good content for a lot of time, then we are what you want, right? We have now published 1,482 articles, and we should be able to hit the 1,500 mark by either the end of this week or the beginning of next. I'm very proud of what we do, myself and Mitch, also over there at WeLikeSportsPC.com, and I'm sure if you go to that site, you will see exactly what we're talking about. Jordan Mason, the 49ers running back, said in an interview after the game yesterday that he was told he was going to be the starter on Friday. But McCarthy wasn't placed on the IO report until Monday. If you heard any of that exchange, it was kind of comical because the first interview he said that, then the second interview they're like, wait a minute, so you said you were told you were going to be the starter on Friday? And he basically was like, oh, this is the reason why I don't like talking to the media because, that blah, blah, blah. Well, how about this? You didn't cheat. You wouldn't have to worry about what the media thought of you, right? So, Mitch, I'm just going to ask you, are the 49ers cheating?
I don't know if I would say cheating, but they're definitely being untruthful about when they knew that Christian McCaffrey was not going to play. Keeping those cards in their back pocket and keeping them close to make sure the opposing defense doesn't know what to game plan for can be a huge advantage for you. I don't know if necessarily it's cheating, but it is untruthful, and I'm pretty sure they have some rules in the NFL in place to kind of stop that from happening. And I think that's why, Jordan Mason was so upset that he opened his mouth and kind of said something, because I'm sure the 49ers will face some kind of fines now his mouth.
Right, I'm sure they will too. But realistically, is it really the new running back's fault?
No, it's the organization's fault for sure. The second they knew that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to be healthy enough to play in that game, they should have made that clear to both their opponents and the fans. Because like we said, kind of with all of week 1, fans paid good money to get to that game, and they paid that money thinking that they were going to see the number 1 running back in the NFL. And they were robbed of that because the 49ers wanted to be untruthful about his health.
I like how nice and diplomatic you're being about it, saying that they are untruthful. I don't need to be nice or diplomatic about it. I beat up the Patriots when they did something similar to this. I'm going to beat up the 49ers when they do something like this. I'm not, for the first time in all my years, I am not in a fantasy football league this year. It's but I messed it up. So I'm not in a fantasy football league this year, so it doesn't really affect me. But I know that you're probably in fantasy football leagues this year. Did you have Christian McCaffrey thinking that he was going to push you over the edge?
Thankfully, no, but I know a lot of people that did. And a lot of people with that first pick in the draft are really reliant on a guy like that. And by Monday night, if you don't have another running back that's playing Monday night, you're screwed. I mean, you're losing out on those points. You can't replace him. It's not a Monday, or it's not a Sunday noon game that you can find somebody else that's playing that week to toss him in there. You're just losing out on those points. So yeah, I know a lot of people that were upset about that, and rightfully so.
And I wonder what Vegas thinks about it, right? I'm sure the line would have changed had they have known a couple days ahead of time that Christian McCaffrey wasn't going to play. So I thought that would be interesting to know too.
Well, and that's the other thing about it is, Vegas. Nobody's saying that Vegas is a moral place, but a lot of these odds and bookmakers just completely voided the lines for Mason's running yards, thinking that he was going to be the second string. And so I saw a lot of books had his running yards over under at like 12 and a half, 20 yards. And clearly he crushed that because he started that game. And so they did not, hold up their end of the bargain because nobody holds Vegas accountable. They said, no, we're voiding all the bets, or we're giving you the payout at minus 5,000 because that's what it would have been if we knew they were going to be the starter. So just really, really screwed over a lot of people, and we can't have that. So I'm sure the NFL will be cracking down on that.
All right, so it's about that time again, sir. I tell you what, let's do one more question, and then we'll go to church real quick. All right. So I got some music queued up. I'll see if this works here in a second. I'm already smiling because I know what it's going to be. But so there was an overtime game with your Detroit Lions on Sunday night, and when it was all said and done, the Detroit Lions won because the Rams didn't get a shot in overtime whatsoever. Right? The Lions got the ball. They went right down the field. I have to give it to the Detroit Lions. They ran that ball right down the Rams' throat and scored that touchdown rather easily and rather quickly. But I want to put the shoe on the other foot for you and say, if you were a Rams fan, wouldn't you have been upset that you didn't even get a chance in overtime to do anything? And I'm going to ask, should both teams get the ball in overtime?
Sure, I'd be upset if I was a Rams fan, but I'd also be upset that the Rams couldn't win that game in regulation. And I think, honestly, in the regular season, no, both teams shouldn't get the ball in overtime. If your defense can't stop the other team from scoring a touchdown in overtime, then that's your answer right there. You lose the game. In the postseason, they've changed that rule. Both teams do get a chance to possess the ball in the overtime, and I think that's exactly the way we should keep it. If the game isn't decided in that first 60 minutes, then you don't get to cry and say, oh, well, this is unfair, we didn't get the ball in overtime. Well, why didn't you win it in the first 60 minutes then? And why couldn't you stop the team from going down and, like you said, running down your throat and scoring a touchdown when they first possessed the ball in overtime? So no, I don't think both teams in the regular season should be able to possess the ball. I think it comes down to your defense being able to make a stop. And if they can't do that, the game's already been 60 minutes plus, and you got to live with that.
So do you think people feel the same way about baseball? I mean, the game's already been 9 innings plus, and we give each team in baseball the opportunity to score. And at the end of each inning, we decide who wins or if it's still tied or whatever. And sometimes we go 13, 14, 15 innings. And I don't know about you, but I'm right there for it. Let's keep going. And I think a lot of people would be for it in football as well. If it'd be, okay, so now I've got 3 overtimes. Now I got 4 overtimes. So why do you think it works in baseball and it doesn't in football, or vice versa? Do you think it doesn't really work in either sport?
Well, I think it works in baseball better. I think the real reason that it isn't in football is because of the risk of injury on each play. And especially after 60 plus minutes out there, when those guys are battling, they're getting fatigued, and they're not conditioning for 70 minutes of football. They're conditioning for 60 minutes. And the longer you have those guys out there, the more risk of injury goes up exponentially when you're tired and you're still going and giving 100%. So I think that's the difference there.
Okay. All right. You know what? Well, let's just do this. Let's see how this goes. Let's go to church. Oh, fly was that one. Oh yeah, we're going now. I'm ready. I don't know about you, Mitch, but I'm ready. I'm still ready. All right, so I'm going to turn that down a little bit. We're going to have it in the background. So we're going to do going to church. We're going to say amen or oh no. That's how we're going to do this segment. I've actually finally found a way that I can combine the two things that I love, which is sports and religion. So we are going to go to church here real quick. We're going to look at the NFL home teams, and will those home teams win this upcoming week 2 matchups? All right, so Buffalo at Miami. Miami, will they beat the Buffalo Bills? Amen. Oh, no. What do you think? Miami, Mitch?
That's tough with how Buffalo looked this last weekend. I'm going to say amen. I think the Miami Dolphins are going to win that game, especially if we see the Bills that we saw play the Cardinals this last weekend.
I don't know, man. The Cardinals don't have much of a defense, but they've got a decent offense. I think we've all, probably as Cardinals fans, we've all pretty much seen that I don't think we're jumping in and out because we got music and me talking and you talking, so let's put that music out for a second. But we don't have real good technology yet. Give me a little bit. I actually thought I had it this time, and I was like, Mitch, before we came on the air, I was like, Mitch, can you hear the music? And he's like, no, it's not. So back to the drawing board for me. But yeah, I'm with you actually. I didn't like Buffalo's performance. I didn't think it was up to what I would expect from a Buffalo performance. So I'm going to go with Miami too. So I'm going to say amen to Miami and that they are going to win. The New Orleans Saints will be visiting the Dallas Cowboys. Mitch, Dallas, amen. Oh no.
I'm going to say amen, but I think before this last week, I wouldn't have even had a question about it. And sure, it's playing the Panthers, but the Saints look really good this last weekend. And so I think this is going to be a good game, but I do think Dallas is going to pull it out.
All right, I'll give Dallas an amen too. I think they're going to win. So we'll jump off of that. Here is what I'm going to call the most interesting game of the weekend, and it involves your Detroit Tigers. They are at home, and they have Baker Mayfield, who we talked about earlier. If you missed it, rewind this back or listen to the replay, and we'll talk about Baker Mayfield at the beginning of this podcast and his exploits. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be visiting the Detroit Tigers. Will Detroit beat Tampa Bay?
They will. Yeah, the Lions are going to take that one. Because they're at home, that's going to help them a lot. But I'm saying amen. The Lions are going to win that game.
This is really tough for me. I like Baker, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's so tough for me. I really want him to succeed. Man, I have gone up and down and back and forth on this for the last couple days. You convinced me. Amen. I'll go with Detroit. I'll go with you on Detroit over Tampa Bay. How about Green Bay at home? And they have the Indianapolis Colts coming in.
I'm gonna say oh no for this one because Green Bay is gonna take some time to learn what that offense is gonna look like without Jordan Love. So um, Anthony Richardson looked really good this last weekend. I think that the Colts are gonna go in there and win that one. So I'm gonna say oh no for Green Bay.
All right. Well, we're not doing real great yet because we're not even disagreeing, but I'm with you. Oh, no. For the exact same reasons you just said, uh, one of the people who really impressed me over the weekend in a bunch of crappy, sloppy NFL games was Richardson, the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. There's a couple other people that we'll talk about that impressed me too, but he did a very good job. And I think because of his play and the lack of play that was shown, of course, we got Jordan Love out right at the moment, so Green Bay's got their backup, Malik Willis, in there. And I think that will make an oh no for Green Bay, even though they are at home. The New York Jets, coming off their loss in San Francisco, now go to Tennessee, and they will play the Titans. So the Titans, amen? Oh no.
Oh no, the Titans are not a good team. I mean their defense played well, but they couldn't even beat the Bears without the Bears scoring an offensive touchdown.
Right.
So that's an oh no. I think the Jets are going to win that one.
Yeah, and I think the Jets are going to be upset that they lost in San Francisco. I think we really hyped them up, and they laid an egg. So if I had to pick a game that I thought was going to have the greatest point differential out of all of these, I would pick the Jets. If I was in one of those, you call them, that you pick one team every week, and you guarantee that team's going to win, I think I'd be picking the Jets here against Tennessee, even though it is in Tennessee. Now, the 49ers were at home last week. They are not at home this week. They get to go to Minnesota and play the Vikings. So, Vikings, amen. Oh, no.
It's going to be an oh no as well. The Vikings surprised a lot of people last week, but they were also playing the Giants. They're playing a lot better team in the 49ers this week at home. That's going to be an oh no.
All right. Boy, I don't know. Did we compare notes before we did this segment or what? We did not, but no, I'm with you 100%. The other thing that I think is because of this past weekend, we don't have a lot of mediocre teams. We have a lot of crappy teams, and we have a lot of really good teams. And I think we're going to find this out for a lot of the matchups in the NFL. This is not going to be real hard when we go and look at these. Seattle at New England. So New England, amen or oh no.
Oh no. That was a fluke last weekend. They're not going to beat Seattle.
Okay, and again, yes, I'm right with you. New England will not beat Seattle, even though it's in New England. The Giants are visiting the Commanders in a interdivision rivalry this week. Giants at Commanders. So the Commanders are amen or oh no.
I'm going to say amen. Actually, I think the Commanders will take this one. I think it's a battle of two terrible teams, but I think the Commanders will take it.
I'm with you. I'm amen and with you, brother. I might be on this Commander bandwagon because his name just slipped my mind. The new quarterback that they've got, he impressed me last week too. Former LSU, former Arizona State Sun Devil, really did a good job even in a loss last week. Chargers at the Panthers. Panthers, amen. Oh no, do we really?
Oh no, yeah, the Chargers are going to win that game.
All right, so Browns at Jaguars, another kind of interesting game. Two teams that we had some high hopes for going into the season, and both of them lost last week. So the Jaguars, amen or oh no?
I'm going to say amen, actually, and because at least the Jaguars had a good half of football to show for themselves last week. The Browns didn't have any, and Deshaun Watson definitely doesn't have any. So I'm going to say amen for the Jaguars taking this one.
All right. I'm just going to ask you real quick. Can you tell a difference in the screen right now?
No.
No? Okay, that's good. Just my laptop says, hey, stupid, you forgot to plug me in again. The battery is going. So it's down to 20%, and it's telling me it's doing some kind of battery saver thing. So I wanted to make sure there wasn't a difference in it. So
no, you're good. 6%. So yeah, we'll.
All right, buddy. Another game that I kind of like. I think this might be my upset of the week. Raiders at the Ravens. I'm going to tell you now. I'm gonna choose the Raiders, and I'm gonna say the Ravens are oh no. Are you gonna stick with me, or are you gonna pick something different?
No, that's our first disagreement here. I'm saying amen. The Ravens are going to win that game. But you know what? I hope you're right. I hope the Raiders do pull it out. But I think the Ravens showed enough this last week that they're a good team, and they'll get their first win next week.
Okay. Rams at the Cardinals. So are the Cardinals an amen or an oh no?
I think that's going to be an oh no. I really like what the Rams showed this last weekend. Puka Nacua being out and being put on the IR for at least 4 weeks is going to be a tough loss for him. But Cooper Kupp looked really good last week and kind of returned to his old self. I'm going to say oh no for the Cardinals there. I think the Rams will win that.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you a second time in a row here. I'm gonna say amen to the Cardinals, and mainly it's because of what you just mentioned. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his name. You did a really good job with it. That receiver that Mitch was talking about is not going to be there. So yes, you've got Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp is a great receiver, and there's no doubt about that. But you're able to double team him now, and you're able to give him safety help over the top. And I really think that the Arizona Cardinals will learn from some of their mistakes this past week, where they almost beat Buffalo, and actually, and honestly, probably should have beaten Buffalo with some of the coverages and things. And I hope, crossing my fingers here, they need to give Marvin Harrison more than 3 targets in the game. So I'm going to pick the Cardinals. Steelers at the Broncos. You think about the Broncos beating the Steelers at home?
I'm going to say amen. Yeah, I do think the Broncos are going to beat the Steelers this weekend. I don't believe in Justin Fields. I don't believe in Russell Wilson, even if he is active this next week. That Steelers defense scares me, and TJ Watt out there. But I actually think Bo Nix showed some flashes this last week that I actually made me believe in him a little bit more than I did before. So I'm going to say amen for the Broncos beating the Steelers this week.
We're back to agreeing with each other. So I'm putting the hand up, right? Amen, brother. I'm going to go amen as far as Broncos over the Steelers. We got 3 more, and the first one of those 3 is Bengals at the Chiefs. Bengals at the Chiefs. What do you think about this matchup? Chiefs, amen? Oh no.
Chiefs, I'm taking amen, especially because of what the Bengals showed us this last week. I do think they'll put up a better fight and have a better showing, but I think the Chiefs.
Now I'm going to say this. I'm going to disagree with you on this as well, because I think the Bengals looked ahead. To be very honest with you, I really do. I think the Bengals looked ahead to the Chiefs. They were really preparing for this game, and we both know that the Bengals have seemingly had the Chiefs' number. So I'm going to take those 2 things, and I'm going to say, with that little bit of homer in me, saying that I want the Bengals to go win, even though they are, I believe, something like 1 and they were like 1-12 in the first 2 weeks. In the past few years, I think it was actually that they were 1-12 under their current head coach. It's just terrible. But I'm going to go for it and see if that happens. Next to last one, Bears at the Texans. I think this one's pretty easy. We're probably both going to agree. I'm going to say Texans, amen. They will beat the Bears.
Yep, I'm with you.
All right, so we're going to give the Texans a big amen, even though it is the Bears. Okay, and then the Monday night game is the Falcons at the Eagles. Are we saying Eagles, amen? Or oh no?
Yep, we're going to an amen. They're going to beat the Falcons, especially at home. The Eagles are really tough to beat, and Kirk Cousins did not look very good last week, so that's an amen for me.
Okay, so here's what I want us to do. I said we're going to do this. This will be the last thing we do, everybody. We're almost 2 hours in. We've stretched this one out a little bit. We had a lot of things to talk about. We certainly appreciate all of you. Again, the numbers just keep climbing. So we appreciate all of you guys being with us. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have any feedback whatsoever, we certainly will take that. You can go to our X account for the show, which is at The643&Out Pod. Mitch, give them your Twitter account one more time, buddy.
Yeah, you'll find me at Mitchellbrook52 on X.
Of course, we've already mentioned our X account. We do have the Facebook account at The643&Out Pod. Mitch, let them know what our YouTube account is, buddy.
Yeah, same thing at The643&Out Pod. The only difference is we're actually going to spell out and for the YouTube, so you can find us there and like and subscribe, and we definitely appreciate any support, especially on that YouTube and Facebook.
Right. Actually, yes, we do. So we're going to do a free home team parlay. We're going to tell you where to put your money. So looking at all those home teams right there. Tell me who you would pick first. What would be the number one pick in your three-team parlay, Mitch?
Well, actually, just building the odds and kind of the money on this, I think um, I've got a nice play for us here.
Awesome.
Um,
You did all of this, huh? You built a parlay, huh?
yeah, and I figured one of us was going to take the Cardinals, and I'm glad it worked out this way because these three teams have actually the lowest odds to win, so they think they're going to be close games. But a parlay of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Washington Commanders, and the Arizona Cardinals, which all of these teams being at minus 122, is actually going to give us a plus 435 three-pick parlay, which is going to be the best bet for your money. If we were picking teams like the Lions, they're currently minus 340 to win that game. The Cowboys are minus 285 to beat the Saints. And the Ravens are minus 455 to beat the Raiders. So if you put those three teams together, those are going to be your best odds. And I think you'd like that at plus 435. You'd have a really good chance of getting your money back there.
All right. So tell me what that means because I'm pretty stupid when it comes to this betting stuff. So if you do that bet and you put, I don't know, we'll just use the nice round figure of $10 on that bet. How much is that going to give me if I do those three teams with $10 down?
Yep. So you'd win 43 with $10 down. 100 would be 435 that you'd win. But yeah, it's the best you're going to get with playing like straight game odds like that. The more you put in those minus 350s, the minus 400s, you're really not going to get much return for it. So I think that's the play. If you want to follow along with us, we'll definitely touch back on next week's show and kind of see what our running total is for the show.
All right, so we'll do this all every time. We'll do as we leave, we'll do a parting parlay. How about that? The end of every show, we'll part ways with our listeners with a 3-team or a 4-team or maybe even a 5-team parlay. Who knows? Right? But that is Mitch Moneybags Middlebrooks. I am the Clean Geek Mike Valentine. We are together, the 643 and Out guys. You've been listening to the Sports Truth. Mitch, give us something on the end here. Give us a little something.
Yeah, I was just watching the Yankees-Royals game. The Royals pulled it off, so you might get your wish. It looks like they're heating up at the end of the season and hopefully starting to do a little better after that rough stretch they had. So a little positive note for you.
A little positive. All right, I like positive, buddy. Hey, so as always, the last thing we say on this show, because it's true, the only thing that's fair in life is a baseball hit between the third and the first base line. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for being with us.